Welcome to the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea Podcast. I'm Dani Sheriff, your host, certified fertility awareness practitioner, functional nutrition counselor, and founder of the HA Society, and of course, an HA recovery coach who has walked where you currently are walking. This is the place to come if you care about getting your period regularly. This podcast aims to educate, inform, and keep you motivated on your period and HA recovery track. So let's dive in. But last thing, nothing on the show should be taken as medical advice, so please seek the advice of your physician.
All right. Listen up. If you are listening to this right now, you're hearing my voice in your ears in this very second. The Holistic HA Practitioner Certification is open for enrollment right now. Yes. So if you're feeling the call to work with women with amenorrhea, to get their periods back, to help them get pregnant, optimize their fertility, this is the course for you. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Dani, this is a podcast for people with amenorrhea. True. This certification is not going to be for all of you. This certification is going to be for those of you who really feel that call, that the call that I had, the call that Ashley had, to make a change and fill the gap that the healthcare practitioners, the nutrition coaches, the health coaches, the fitness coaches haven't been able to do for us. So if you are a health practitioner, if you are a fitness instructor, a personal trainer, a nutritionist, or if you aspire to work with women with amenorrhea in the way that we do, then you are the person that this is for. And it really takes a lot of the time people who have been through it to come out the other side and help the others go through it too, right? So if that happens to be you, maybe you're a few cycles in, maybe you are recovered, or maybe you're on your journey, but you can already tell, like, yeah, this is the change that I want to make, then yeah, the Holistic HA Practitioner Certification is for you. Or maybe you know the healthcare practitioner in your circle who needs this information, or the personal trainer or the nutritionist in your sphere that needs this information. Pass the link on it. Not only are you going to have these skills and the tools that you need to actually feel confident as a coach and confident to go out there and actually help women and make a difference, but you're going to have the credentials too. This is an accredited course with the International Practitioners of Holistic Medicine. And Ashley and I are so excited to be launching the very first cohort of this. This means it's the best time to join the certification because you're going to get in the ground level. And the first 48 hours, we're doing the early bird pricing. You're going to want to get in on this. Do not delay. Check it out. thehasociety.com/certification. The Holistic HA Practitioner Certification is going to be awesome, and we cannot wait to work directly with you to make you the best HA coach that you can be. See you there. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. You are listening to me, you're listening to Ashley, and you're listening to one of Ashley's completed successful clients, Amy. Welcome to the show, Amy.
All right. Thanks. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for agreeing to participate. I will be listening to your story for the first time ever because you worked with Ashley. So, I'm going to just hand it over to Ash for a sec to sort of introduce this, like why she requested your presence. And then she'll hand over to you to kind of tell us a bit about yourself and where your journey begins.
Yeah. So I'm super excited to have Amy simply because I feel like her story resonates with so many people. And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, I feel like you're probably still in this like ambivalent state of like, I've recovered, but I don't feel recovered. And I feel like I have so much more to do. And I actually have so much more to accomplish. But I thought it was just so important because sometimes we can get to the end of the story and like I've been talking about this with my clients, a healing journey can be, it tends to be stressful, you know what I mean? And there's good stress, right? And there is some stress that's required in order to create change and stuff like that. So I didn't want us to get too far removed from this newly recovered fresh. And I just wanted us to capture like all the moments and all the feelings and just kind of put it out there because I know people feel like this. So I kind of want to start from the very beginning. Like, when did you first hear about us? Because I think you have a unique story that you've kind of been a part of our community for a while now.
Yeah, well, definitely just first off, like I'm still feel like I'm on the roller coaster. So kind of feels weird to even be here telling my story because I feel like I'm still definitely in it. So I don't know if it feels weird to even say I'm recovered. I feel like I still have a lot of ways to go. So but with that, yeah, I have kind of just been like on the peripheral for a while. I mean, once I found out I was very similar to a lot of women that I've heard through the HA Society share their story. So on birth control for a while, and then I came off birth control and had no period. And I want to go back to the beginning of that too, but just to speak to when I found you guys, I came off and I pretty quickly figured out my problem, but it took me years to be willing to do anything about it. So I've just been kind of listening, watching, consuming the content. And then it took me seriously like 5 years to actually pull the trigger and do anything about it. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. But to go back to when it all started, and I've been thinking about this a lot and trying to kind of pinpoint, because this is where I'm at in my journey, like kind of trying to figure out what are my triggers and why do I do the things I do. And so I think back to the beginning, and right now I'm 34 years old now, and probably right out of college, I had put on weight in college, just doing the regular college stuff and having a lot of fun, and gained weight that I wasn't really thrilled about. So it really started for me, I think, innocently enough, where I just was trying to make some swaps in my food choices to what I thought were healthier choices, or I guess lower calorie choices. And I got my first job and I was a teacher, and I taught middle school, and I had end of the day planning period. So that meant like I had students and I had classes all day until like 1:30. So I would start school at 7:30 and I wouldn't have more than like a 10-minute break until 1:30. So it got like really easy for me to just not eat that whole time. And I also at that time was living on my own in college I did, but this was like my first like real apartment by myself. And my apartment complex had a gym for residents that it was free with your rent, I guess. So I started eating less, I think, overall, because, I guess at the time it was just because of my schedule, because I don't think I was doing it on purpose. I just was going really long spans of time without eating. And then I would use the gym. It was my first time I never wanted to like pay for a gym membership. So this was free and it was right there and I could walk to it from where I lived. So I would go to the gym after work, or I would go on the weekends, and it all started like innocently enough. And I definitely like lost the weight that I had gained in college. And then probably a little bit after that, and I started, getting compliments. I mean, like from like my grandma. I remember my grandma giving me a compliment about that I looked good, and so, and then I just kind of kept going. And then I was probably like 22 when I started all that. And then I learned more about, I feel silly even saying like healthy eating, because I know it wasn't healthy, but I learned more about, cauliflower rice instead of rice and all the easy swaps. And so I kept doing more and more of it. And so that was probably like 22 then. And I still had my period then. my cycle and everything. And when I was 24, my mom was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and I was 24. So just kind of going through with her, I went to my doctors and asked, like, preventatively, what can I do? I don't want this to happen to me. And they kind of said, like, well, aside of like having a hysterectomy, which I, don't want to do, I don't want to do ever, but didn't want to do certainly before having kids. They said, really, the only thing we have scientific evidence that helps is going on birth control. And up until this point, I had never been on birth control. I just, I guess I should say, like, I had very regular cycles. 28 days to the day. I never had PMS. It was very textbook, straightforward. I obviously, I wasn't charting anything, so I don't know if I was ovulating or when. Well, I know I was ovulating, I don't know when, but it was a very easy cycle. So I never went on birth control until then. So at age 24, they told me if I went on birth control for 5 or more consecutive years, that was like the only thing that I could really do preventatively to help me lessen my likelihood of getting ovarian cancer in the future. And I just believed them, and I started taking birth control, and I was on it for 5 years. And all during that 5 years, I was digging in deeper, working out more, eating less, losing more weight. I got married during that time, and I knew I was like, in May of this year is my 5-year mark. I'm coming off birth control because I want kids. And that was like always something, kids was always something I always wanted. I was a teacher, but I knew it was all like temporary until I could just be a mom. And so I came off birth control at age 29 and no period. So I like quickly, I did a little Googling, like you said, and I found, some people it takes like 3 months for your period to come back after coming off birth control. And so I waited the 3 months and then nothing. And I was like, all right, I'm going to the doctor. I'm too impatient and I don't understand what's happening. And so I went to the doctor, and, they looked me over, and I was thin for me, but like a totally normal BMI and everything. So I think I don't exactly know, but I was like, my BMI was probably like 23. I don't know exactly. I don't really remember, but it was very average, very normal, very average. So they kind of looked at me as like unexplained infertility, and they just I did all the blood tests, all the workups, all the stuff, and I don't remember like the big ones, but they did the HSG thing where you have to check if your tubes are open, and that was fine. And my husband had to do the semen analysis, and that was fine. And everything was normal, fine. But here I am not ovulating and no period and nothing. So I kind of dug into it on my own. All the things, like they checked prolactin, that was normal, like all the things that could inhibit your cycle, none of the markers. And I don't think anybody questioned or looked at whether or not I had HA, if they even knew about it, because I wasn't like that thin. I was thinner than I had been, but I wasn't thin, or I wasn't too thin, I guess. And I wasn't running marathons. I was working out, a lot more than I do now. I was working out probably like 5 or 6 days a week, but I was doing like 30-minute DVDs in my basement, or on Saturdays I would go to Orange Theory Fitness. And so it felt like a very reasonable amount of activity for me. And so anyway, I did like all the initial like fertility workup testing, got all my lab values, which were all very low, but they were like in the normal range, just like the very low end. So I think like the doctors just saw that it was in the normal range, So nobody was concerned about it. And my OBGYN just kind of was like, okay, well, yeah, we've done all we can do, and we'll just pass you on to a fertility clinic, since my goal, I wanted kids. And I also did the Provera challenge, and that I did bleed after doing that. And so that kind of, I Googled, I did a lot of Googling. I Googled, like, why is this good? Why, is it better to have a bleed on Provera? Is it not? And then it kind of like, I don't even remember. I don't even think I found you guys at that point, because that would have been like 2017. And I don't know if you were around then, but I started, like, I got some hits on Google, and I started like piecing it together myself, but I was also too impatient to figure it out. So when they said, we'll write you a referral to a fertility clinic, I was like, sure, sign me up. Let's just go do it. I don't feel like, I just want to get this done. So I went, so I did, I went to a fertility clinic, and I started treatment there, and they started me on just Femara, letrozole, I think it's the same thing, which is just like a oral pill to take to help grow follicles to induce ovulation. And it did not work. I didn't ovulate after taking it. So they upped my dose. It did not work. So they upped my dose again. It did not work. Like a follicle or two would like kind of get a little bigger, but nothing would ever grow enough to be mature enough to ovulate. So then I switched to injectable hormones, injectable, I want to say LH. I can't even remember now. I should have like re-looked at that stuff, but it was, or maybe FSH. Would it make sense that it was FSH? I think FSH. So I would, and it was low dose injections, but that worked. And so I was able to ovulate with the combination of the oral pill and the injectable medication. And I did conceive on my first time ovulating using that, using the injections. And so we ended up with twins. So which is, I guess, probably more, I think, pretty common when using injections. It's you're a little less able to control how many eggs, I guess. And so then I was pregnant, and I had the twins, and it was great. And I felt like, I just felt like so relieved, because I was so stressed about getting pregnant and the timeline, and I already felt behind because I had to wait till I was 29. I already felt like it was not the way I wanted to have kids way before that. And so it was a big relief, and I felt like, twins is tough. Twins has been tough. But it felt like maybe it was like a good thing, because I didn't know if I was going to be able, if that was going to be it. I didn't know what was in the future. So I had the twins, and they're great. It was actually a really easy pregnancy, weirdly. Not a lot of issues, and twins, like I said, they're tough, but they were good. And I'm one of 3 siblings, and we're all super close in age. And I always, I always knew I wanted kids. I always knew I wanted a lot of kids, and I always wanted them to be close in age. So after my twins were born, I had read or Googled somewhere that a lot of times if you have HA and you're able to have a successful pregnancy, that maybe it's more likely that your period will come back after you have the baby. So I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe, my period will come back, and I'll be normal. And, but of course it didn't. And after I had the twins, I probably dug in, I think, a little deeper even into HA, because I was very conscious about losing the weight that I had gained when I was pregnant with them. And also my best friend got married shortly. I think my girls, they were like 4 months old when she got married, and I was the maid of honor. So I was really wanted to make sure I knew I was gonna have to be up there and give that speech, and people were gonna be looking at me. And so I did. I mean, this is like wild to even say, but I did the like 21-day fix Beachbody diet when I probably should have been like consuming like 5 times the food, because I was trying to like breastfeed twins. But so I lost a lot of, a decent amount of weight. I weighed less at 4 months postpartum with the twins than I weighed when I got pregnant with them, definitely. And I remember at the wedding, my dad was invited. She's been like my best friend for a long time. So my dad and my stepmom were there. And I remember them saying to me, like, you look really thin, And they said it in a way where, looking back, I think he said it with concern, but I took it as like, oh, well, thanks. I look so thin, and I just had these 2 babies, and I carried twins, and I'm so thin. And
yeah, can I just say, like, because this might be important for people to hear, is like, there is also sometimes a glorification. People are worried about me. And there's actually a real, if anyone could think of it, there's like a comedy act about it, where the girl is just like kind of like making fun of it. She's just like, you're worried about me? Like, I must be so thin. And it's like this weird subconscious thing that we do.
I think there's like a recent episode of the Kardashians where people were saying that.
Yeah, I want to be like, you're concerned for me thin.
Yeah.
That's real. So I just want to call that out.
Yeah, and I think I probably felt that. I think that was where I was at, because I felt like, I don't know, I look back at pictures of myself at that time, and I'm like, yeah, I think that was probably my thinnest. And again, though, I don't think any stranger off the street who didn't know me would look at me and think that person has a problem. I think I looked very average, very normal, but people who knew me, my dad knew me growing up. I was always average, not that thin, not that, I don't know. I think very average, but I think my dad could look at me and say, like, you're pretty thin for you. I also think, like, I was definitely like in the bunker of having like newborn twins. I was stressed. I was overtired. It was all the things that give you HA. I was definitely like, I was in it. Yeah. So that shortly after that, we started talking, I knew I wanted more kids. And I also knew that I was probably going to need medical help again. And we had moved, my husband is in the military, so we had moved, and so I needed to start with a new fertility clinic. And the way that the military doctors work, you have to like go to your primary care to get a referral out. I couldn't just go or ask for a referral. It's a whole process. So I started early. The twins were probably like 7 months old when I asked for the referral, and I got in with the new fertility clinic, and they kind of looked at me like, you just had a baby 7 months ago. Like, we're not going to do anything till they're at least like 10 or 11 months old. And so I waited till then. And so I got in with them. They were probably around a year old when I started back on treatment. And this was also around the start of COVID. So it was just like so many hoops to jump through, because I couldn't bring them to my appointments. I had to find like childcare for them. We don't live by our family. I also, this is something that I hadn't shared with my family. So I was also just very alone in figuring out the logistics of how to get fertility treatment with zero help. And so I started back on fertility treatment, and then it was like a shutdown for a little while because of COVID, and that like totally stressed me out. And that is the time I remember walking my dog, which I was one of those people that you were talking about in a recent podcast that would make the excuse that my dog needed an hour walk every day. I would strap those twins into the double stroller. The one hated it, and she would cry the entire hour every day. But I told myself, it's for the dog. I have to do it. So I would walk every day for an hour, and I would listen to podcasts while I was walking. And it was around this time that I remember listening to, I don't remember what your podcast, it was one of your first podcasts. And I had found No Period Now What just by my Googling. And just similar to many women I've heard, I read it in like a day because everything in it just felt like, this is me, this is everything resonated. And then I don't even know how I found you, but I remember listening to the podcast while I was walking, and I remember thinking like, yep, this is it. Like this is what I need to do. And so it was at that point, my twins were about a little over a year old, that I knew what I had to do, but I just like couldn't do it. And so I started back up in fertility treatment, now I'm getting it messed up. I went to also a regular endocrinologist, and I did all the brain testing things to make sure that it wasn't, something else, because I had to rule everything else out, right? I had to like be totally sure that it was simply that I wasn't eating enough. I
love it.
I did everything. And I read that book, and I listened to the podcast, and I knew it. And I would talk to my husband about it, and he would be like, well, Amy, why don't you just like eat a piece of toast in the morning? And I would be like, yeah, maybe I will. And then I would wake up, and it would be like panic, and I would not eat the toast. I just like, I couldn't put one foot in front of the other with this. And so I went back into fertility treatment, and they kind of started things back up a little bit into COVID. And again, at this point, I had my prescription, if you will, from the first time. So I just handed that over to the new doctor, and they put me on the same regimen of the oral pills and the injections. And I did ovulate again using those. And to be honest, I think I was working out a little bit less than I was prior to having the twins, just because of life. And I actually needed a lower dose of the medicine. So I think there was a little bit of natural healing just in life slowing me down. So I ovulated, and I got pregnant, and my husband went on a 10-week, I guess it was technically a deployment. It was like a 10-week thing. And I had my first appointment while he was gone. And I had the two twins home by myself, away from all family. And I went into my first 8-week ultrasound to find out that there was no heartbeat. And so I had a miscarriage, and I was alone and had to continue taking care of two 16-month-old babies. And it was just so hard and so devastating, and a feeling I never want to feel again. And I just felt like this gripping panic, because miscarriage is hard, and it's heartbreaking, and it's common, and a lot of people have that story, but a lot of people can try again a lot easier than I could. And so, which is a whole nother story of how that grief and all that is like another layer of things. But so that was really hard. But as soon as I was able to, I got back on the fertility treatment, same thing. And I got pregnant again. And that time it was just a single baby. And she, so actually today she's 17 months old. So she's 17 months old today. And she's just the best. She's just the best. And so I had her, and I breastfed her for a year. And at a year old, for me, I was like, this breastfeeding thing is a lot. And I didn't make it very long with the twins. So this was like my first time really going through it. And I had that goal. And I think a little bit of my like controlling, type A personality, I was like, I'm going to do it a year. It's hard, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to, just push through. And, so during that year, I just told myself, I'm not going to worry about my period because I'm not going to get my period anyway because I'm breastfeeding. And I know that's not true, but that's what I told myself. I know lots of people who get pregnant when they're breastfeeding because they don't, realize that you can still have a cycle while you're breastfeeding. But I told myself, like, I'm just not going to worry about it. And I continued prioritizing exercise as much as I could. And I think now I couldn't walk the dog because I had 3 kids and not enough stroller seats. So I did stop walking the dog, which I actually do feel bad about because now he gets like 0 walks and he's
well, that's the thing is like most of our stories, there's a nugget of truth in there that we just like take to the next level. But
yeah,
I mean, there's a part of me sitting here just being like, twins and a babe, I don't know, I'm not, that part's like not computing for me. Like how you could even have this all going on at once is incredible.
I mean, I try to walk Nugs and my 2 dogs, and it is an absolute cluster. It's an absolute cluster.
Yeah, I don't walk him anymore. I can't, but I like,
yeah,
he's for sure the most neglected member of the family. He used to be the only child, if you will, and now he's just, I don't know.
We call our dog Neglecty.
Yeah, I feel bad for my dog. He's a great dog. He like couldn't handle the twins, but he loves the baby. So he's so sweet. But so he gets neglected. I don't, but I did have a thought. I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? I can't walk the dog anymore. Like, how am I going to like get out? And I mean, what am I going to do? And I would, it was crazy. I know I've said this to Ashley, like I think about what I used to do when my baby was like 3 months old, and I would, she's still up 2, 3, she was actually a terrible sleeper. She didn't sleep through the night till she was 15 months old, but she at this point is still up like 2 or 3 times at night. And I would, get little sleep. And then I would still get up at 5, regardless of if I had just been up at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, I would still get up at 5 to go exercise before the twins would wake up for the day. And I would go, it just workouts in my basement, nothing, no group fitness classes. I really like curtailed that, but like still I was running on fumes. I had no sleep. I also wasn't eating. And I guess like to circle back to how this all started, like I think ever since having that late planning period, I got really used to not eating all day. And then my hunger cues were off and I just wasn't hungry. And I mean, I remember in like the early days of like when I still lived in that apartment, when I had my first teaching job and my husband and I were just dating, like him and my best friend who I lived with at the time, they would like have to remind me like, should we go get lunch? Like we're starving. And I'm like, oh yeah, we should. And then I would sit there panicked about like, oh, I don't want to eat lunch. Like I'm not hungry and I don't want to have this. So what do I do when all these people that I love and care about want to go to lunch? And I'll just say, oh, I ate a big breakfast, or I'll just like, I'm not that hungry. I'll just share something of yours. And so all this time, while I was teaching, going through fertility treatment, having all my kids, I just like stopped eating during the day. And I don't really know why I did, or it just became a habit. And then it became like more controlling, because I felt like after I had kids, I was exercising less, so I should eat less because I'm not burning the calories from the exercise, so I should eat less. And then after I had my third baby, I felt like, well, now I'm working out even less because I'm not even walking. So now I need to eat even less. And I was breastfeeding. Like, I don't even know how I could, honestly. And then I felt like, I think I also looked into this. I think that I held on to weight while I was breastfeeding because my body was, I don't know, so undernourished that, because I felt like I was at my heaviest that I had been in years while I was breastfeeding, even though I was really keeping my calorie intake low. And I remember being very frustrated with how I felt about myself that whole year, because I was like, why, my best friend is breastfeeding and she's the thinnest she's ever been. And here I am. And for some reason, I'm just puffy and I can't seem to lose this extra little bit of weight. And so that should have been a red flag, because I read somewhere when your body doesn't have enough like fat it'll hold on to what it does have, so that something, I don't know, to be able to make enough breast milk, I guess. But
So, oh, go ahead.
Ash and I are just like,
yeah, I'm all over the place.
No. This is perfect.
It's not that. It's like, it's bringing up a lot of things where, like, the story that there's so many of us are just like, why is my body not cooperating?
Mm-hmm.
But your body is like, why is this chick not cooperating? We're trying to help you. We're doing these things to keep you alive and to running. And it's interesting how, like, our perception of it is that there is something wrong with us. Are you all about DIYing your recovery? Then you'll want to visit our HE Society resource store. We have created a bunch of amazing tools, guides, templates specifically to help you navigate recovery, find your own blind spots, and track your progress along the way. So you can browse through our store and you will find endless avenues to help you with your unique challenges, from our 100% free Mental Hunger Mindset Mastery workshop to our 7-day recovery kickoff challenge. We also have in-depth, budget-friendly, do-at-your-own pace courses like our Restore program. It's an incredible 10-module recovery guide that comes with access to the HA Society for a full year. The Fertility Awareness for HAs courses, teaching how to use the FAM method to track progress through recovery. The Period Recovery Game Planner, which helps you figure out your blind spots, what is and isn't serving your recovery, what are you not doing that you could be doing to help you move forward, and even journal pages and journal prompts that are designed specifically to help you with body image and mindset throughout recovery. And not only can you access these killer recovery tools from our store, but you can also head there to join the HA Society community, which is open. And by far the most valuable thing you can do for your recovery is to find a support community like this. The HA Society gives you access to live community calls multiple times a week, mini courses, and a full private podcast playlist for you to catch the replay of every single community call and get all of the HA podcast episodes early. So visit our resource store today. Take advantage of all of the tools to help you fast track your DIY recovery journey. I guarantee there's something in there specifically fitting for you that will help you on your way. So you can go to thehasociety.com/store. And now on with the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the best part is that, like, your body's like, I am holding on to this because I'm trying to feed you and this baby. And yet we perceive it as like our body has betrayed us. Like, why are you malfunctioning? Which just kind of goes back to like the underlying thing that Dani and I always talk about is HA is not because your body is weak. It is because your body is incredibly intelligent and resilient. Mm-hmm. And that HA is a side effect of malnutrition, undernutrition to a degree that your body does step in and be like, for survival's sake, we're going to reprioritize what functions are on, what are off, what gets more, what gets less. And I think it's just, I love that you've described it this way because everybody describes it this way. And I think it's truly, truly, and this isn't just our like our generation. It's the generation before us, and then one before us, and then one before us that tells us that there's something wrong if like our body is not letting go of baby weight during breastfeeding, when that logic and science is pure marketing and actually has nothing to do with real science and real human anatomy and physiology. And you know what I mean? And so I think I love that you summed it up that way, because I'm sure a lot of people have had it similar, whether it's around breastfeeding or not, possibly not, but to where they're like, I don't understand why my body is holding on. And I'm like, hi, are you starving yourself? Like, it might be a very logical thing. And so I love that you brought this up. Love it. So I feel like this is when you kind of found out about us. And then I feel like you know, before Dani and I were like, oh my gosh, this brings up so much. I feel like you were just about to dive into, obviously you were potentially like, okay, but now I need to like eat the toast, but I'm struggling to eat the toast. Like, so what sparked your desire to recover?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, so at this point, my baby's like a year old. I had been listening to I remember early days of the podcast. I've been listening for a long time, and it was just something where like, it would come in one ear, kind of sit for a while, and then I would continue on doing what I was doing, but just absorbing the information. It's kind of like, once you know, you can't unknow. But it was so I remember being pregnant, listening to the podcast and thinking, that's good information. Should I need it later? But maybe I won't need it, you know? And so I definitely been listening and very aware at this point of, you know, what my issues were. And I had many, many tearful dinners after the kids went to bed with my husband about just beating myself up. Like, why is this happening to me? All I need to do is eat more and exercise less. And he would look at me like, yeah, so like, just do that. And I'd be like, but like, how do I do it? And so he would say the same, like, just like eat a piece of toast when you wake up. And I'd be like, okay, yep, I'm going to eat the toast tomorrow. And then I would wake up in the morning and it would be like default settings, like, and I would just not do it. I would just go right into what I would normally do, which is get up, make the coffee, drink a cup of coffee, go in the basement, work out, come back up, drink more coffee, drank a lot of coffee. And I just like, I couldn't do it. And so I was listening to the podcast and there was the ad for the email coaching. And I was like, you know what, I'm actually going to go to the website. And so I went to your website, which I had never done before. And this was like, maybe like mid-November of 2022. And so my
guys,
baby was
go to
like,
the website. If you haven't
go to the
website.
And I signed up for the discovery call and I was like, okay, this is low stakes. Like, this is, it's not committal. I'm just going to see what it's about. I don't have to make any decisions. I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to like ask my questions and it'll be fine. And I told my husband about it and he looked at me and he's like, so you're going to pay somebody to tell you to eat more and exercise less? And he's like, even though like you just told me that you need to do that? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, yeah, that sounds weird, but like, yeah, I think I'm going to do it. And so I was with you, Ashley, on the discovery call and I talked to you and I was like, you know, I think I know what I need to do, but I need somebody to like tell me how to do it. And like, tell me when you wake up in the morning, go downstairs and do this, like just XYZ, and like, just hold me accountable to do it. And even though it's not like Ashley's checking in on me every day, like, did you eat the banana today? But I just felt like I am also such a rule follower that if I told her I'm going to do it, then I'm going to do it, because I don't want to disappoint you. And I don't want, like, I don't know. I just like, I think it's just my personality where if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So it worked out well for me. And yeah, it felt like crazy at first, but I was just like, I do think ultimately, you know, we do want another baby, another single baby. And I also, like, I don't even know if we've since moved again. So if I had to go back to fertility treatment, I'd have to go through the whole process of getting into another clinic, which takes like 6 months. And then I don't even know logistically how I would have childcare to go to any appointments. It just feels like it's impossible for me to go that route to have another baby. And I also I felt like in November, I was the closest to doing it on my own as I had ever been. The closest to getting pregnant on my own as I had ever been. And I felt like, like, my exercise is really minimal right now. For me, it was really minimal. And the eating, I actually think I may have been at my worst at the eating. I was going a really long time without eating. I ate dinner every day. I've never had an issue eating dinner. But it was like the whole day was just little snacks here, a little snack there. And it got even more snacky as I had more children. Just didn't feel like prepping my own meals or making my own meals. So it was easy to just kind of like quell my hunger by, if I was hungry in the morning, eating a few bites of whatever I made for them to eat, and then my hunger would go away. And then it'd come back maybe like midday, and I would like get a coffee, some kind of coffee, and eat like a handful of pretzels, and it would be fine. Then it would go away. And then I would eat dinner. So I mean, yeah, so I feel like I just needed somebody to tell me exactly what to eat and exactly what to do. I knew in my gut that I needed to eat more, and I knew I needed to exercise less, but I needed somebody to tell me, eat this, because I wasn't able to make the decision on my own. Maybe that sounds silly. I just like wasn't able to get up and do it on my own. And I don't think that even if I did, I don't think the choices would have been as like nourishing and well-rounded as the things that Ashley has suggested for me, because I'm eating a lot of stuff that I haven't eaten, I don't even know, since like college probably. And so I
love this. I love this because you started, so I'm looking at your chart right now, y'all, so that we could just do like real-time evidence.
Yeah.
And like we started charting on November 21st, and 2.5 months later, like you ovulated and you had a really strong, great first luteal phase. I mean, so I think what I just love about your story the most is that I think sometimes our brain tries to protect us, like childbirth. Like, I don't know, like I know it happened, but I can't even tap into like the emotions, you know what I mean? It's almost like it's a movie that I watched and my husband's like, no, I was there. It was very much real, Ashley. Like I remember the sounds you were making, right?
Yeah.
Very mammalish, right? Anyways, but I think that like, what I love is that as you're coming out of it, I feel like you're in this transition to where in these 2.5 months that it took you to ovulate on your own naturally.
Yeah.
You weren't like sold out on the process. It was still back and forth every single day, emotionally, like back and forth. But yet you kept moving forward in these itty bitty small steps that we would take each week. And even though there was back and forth. So I just want us, like, I love that part of your story because we don't have to feel gung ho. We don't have to be so committed mentally and emotionally. I mean, and when I mean committed, I mean like feeling great or confident. Yes, we do need to be committed. You were very much committed because you'd be like, even though I'm back and forth, I am going to do this. You know what I mean? So like, we don't need to be hyper confident to actually recover. And as I'm looking at your chart, like, yeah, you had like the perfect, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 days of cervical mucus leading up, ovulation, it stopped. And then your first one was 9 days, which for a first cycle is huge. And it is so much progress. But I love it because for you, it's like, yeah, just tell us about that, about like almost not feeling confident. And then it happened.
Yeah, I still feel that way. And it has definitely, when I start thinking about like since I started with you, it has definitely been up and down and back and forth. And like there was at least 2 times that I can think of that I was really like, I'm gonna throw in the towel. I'm not doing this anymore. And both of those times something happened. It was like serendipitous that something happened that like changed my outlook on it and got me to stay the course. But yeah, I mean, I started, and honestly, like the first 2 weeks, I was adding in a little bit of food and I saw my temperatures rise and I was like, this isn't so bad. And I'm seeing this clear evidence that it's helping. And I actually feel better in my skin because I, just giving it a little bit more food, give my body a little more food. And then like, there was like, I don't even know, actually like 6 weeks where I felt like nothing was changing, where I just felt like stuck at this like like, I don't even know if they were in range temperatures, but they were like on the cusp, but not enough. And I felt like every week we're adding something in, and nothing's changing and nothing's changing. And I was like, this just isn't for me. My body's just not going to do it. It clearly, look at this, 4 weeks and no change. And I was just like over it. And then I don't remember if I asked, I was like, how far do I have to go? Like, I'm already eating so much more than I want. Like, why is this not doing anything? And you sent me like, okay, well, here's like the full plan. Like, here you go. And it was like such a shock looking at all the food that I was going to have to possibly eventually work up to eating, that it sent me into like full breakdown. And I was like, and it's not, I mean, I asked for it, I wanted to see it, but it was like overwhelming because I felt like I was already eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But then I looked at the plan and I was like, wow, what I'm considering breakfast and lunch, Ashley's telling me is a snack. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to do this. And I was really like, I just can't, like, I'm done. I'm not going to do it. And the next day, well, like 4 days later, actually, I had an anovulatory bleed. And I was like, okay, what is happening? And that, even though I hadn't ovulated, that bleed, I mean, I had like on and off spotting as well, I guess I should say, like that whole like first 6 or 7 weeks. And I was always so confused by it. Like, what is this? Like, why does this happen? A little bit of like blood tinged mucus here and there, like probably like 3 times a week I would see it. And I'm like, this has to be a good sign because this wouldn't happen if there wasn't hormones, but like, what's going on? And so then that moment of like breakdown of like, I just can't do it. And we were going out of town for the weekend anyway. So I just kind of told myself, like, I'm just going to table this till after the weekend. Like, I'm taking a mental break. I've hit a wall. And then while we were out of town that weekend, I had this bleed start, and it was a significant bleed, more than the spotting. And it just like, I was like, okay, so this is something. And so that motivated me to keep going and stick with the plan. And I think at that point, it was after that bleed that I ovulated. So, which also caught me off guard because I again felt like I at that time, that week that I ovulated, all 3 of my kids had got this like crazy illness where all they had was a super high fever. They had no symptoms of anything else, no cough, no congestion, no negative for everything. And they just had these super high fevers, like 102, 103, like high fevers. And none of them felt good, so they weren't sleeping good. And also, like, it was like every 3 hours we were alternating Tylenol, Motrin. So I was up like every night. I mean, ping ponging between the 3 of them, who needs their Tylenol, who needs their Motrin. I mean, I was up all the time. So my temperatures were just like really hard to follow. I couldn't understand what was happening. I wasn't getting a good solid chunk of sleep, and I was also up at weird times. So I was getting frustrated with my chart because I was like, oh, this is the only metric I have to know if like something is happening or working, and it wasn't reliable. So I didn't really know where I was at, if my temperatures were like in range or not. I had also been taking the ovulation test strips every day, like the ones that you pee on. So I was using those, and they were always, there was a line, but it was always a low value or whatever. And my husband happened to be gone that week for work, and I was so frustrated because I'm taking care of these 3 sick kids by myself. I'm not sleeping. And I was, again, just ready to throw in the towel, because I was like, this is too much. Like, I'm stressed about making sure I'm eating what I need to eat, that I'm timing it all out. I'm trying to get them to eat. I'm trying to take care of them. It was just too much. And then I took a test strip, and it came back high, like a high value, a positive value. And I had never seen that before, never. And so it was like, okay. Then I was like motivated to keep going. So it was like every time that I felt like I was like at my wit's end, ready to throw in the towel, something happened that told me you have to keep going. So
we joke all the time that like whenever our clients are just about to quit, they're like, I'm firing you as a coach. I'm firing everybody. I'm firing this season of my life. I refuse to participate. I will not do this. I am giving up. Nobody talked to me about it. It's always when like, I'm like, so you're about to either start or you just ovulated, because it's just, it never fails. So now, like when I have a client that is like on the ropes, they're like, I am out of here. I'm like, okay, Dani, I'm either going to get fired as their coach and they're going to recover right now, but they're going to be coming back. You know what I mean? Like, we joke all the time just because we see it so much. And so not that is to be like, not
sometimes
paying attention to you.
It's like a relief. Like, oh my gosh.
It is. I'm like, woo, thank goodness.
Is experiencing some emotions. Like, yes, we're on track.
Like, welcome back emotions. How does that feel? They're a little spicy right now. I understand, but we're going to be okay. And like, and I think just
never
like
thought about it like that.
Oh yeah. And like just a plug for our certification course in this moment of, if anyone's listening, is that this is why it's so important that I think it's just beautiful that we get to walk along the side of someone's journey and we never take it personal. So that's why I never take what clients say personal, because I know that they are in a tailspin of their own. And honestly, if anyone would have ever spoken to me during my recovery about my recovery, game over. I would have like bit your head off, right? Because I was just so emotionally at my wit's end that I think it's just like, this is the beauty of not taking it personal, because what is on our side of worrying, like, oh my gosh, she's going to quit. She's going to quit. On your side is like, it's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening for you. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I think you also need to be able to express how you feel somewhere. I do think like a lot of us are just like sit down. For you to be able to have someone, often it's our husband, but maybe it can be a friend or mom or like a practitioner, which like you may typically feel less comfortable being like, F you, F this program, F everything that you're saying. But ideally, someone feels comfortable enough to say that, because then you're getting it out. And then you're able to move forward, which is what was kind of happening for you. You're like, you're seeing this roadblock or this like moment of wanting to quit, letting it out in some way, or just like allowing yourself to actually experience it versus like pushing it down. And then letting the next milestone happen. So
and I mean, I think there was, like I said, there was a couple days where I was like, you know what, I'm giving myself a break today. Like today, I'm just not going to think about it, because it's too much today. And I'm just going to think about it tomorrow, So I think like, for me, it wasn't like continual climb. There was definitely like days in between where I felt like and like, thankfully, like, I mean, my husband is the only person I really talk to about this. So he's been super supportive, but I'm sure he's looking at me like, you're great. Like, this is wild. Like and I don't know, just yeah, it happened relatively quickly for me. But it felt like longer, like I look back on it because you don't know. If somebody could tell me this is going to be tough and you're going to have to keep building on all of this for the next 2.5 months and then you'll get there, it wouldn't be as hard, I don't think. But the fact that you don't know, and now I'm sitting here waiting for my next ovulation and I don't know if or when it's coming, and it's scary and it's stressful, and like it's like hard also. I'm still like in the up and down. Like I said, like I feel like it's happened before, so I should have more confidence that it's going to happen again, but I'm still like, but it was like a decade to get to that one. And so I'm, it's like scary. Like, I don't know, is my body really gonna click back that quickly? After all that, it's so.
This is beautiful because that is the beauty of having a coach, because doing it on your own like this is tough. You're right. The like uncertainty, except for thankfully, like you have us, and it's like, yes, Amy, I've actually seen plenty of other women also ovulate afterwards. And as long as we keep going, there's nothing on your chart that says that you're not going to ovulate. You know what I mean? And so it's just really beautiful to be able to express that, and then be able to have someone like be able to speak from a place of experience, you know what I mean? Of guiding people through our proven process to regain their fertility is just like, this is what coaching is about. And I just love it. Love it. Love it. I don't know if Dani had anything, because I know that we're getting close to the hour.
That's okay. I'm able to run a little longer if you.
Okay. I got max 10 minutes because Nuggy pickup.
Okay. No, I feel like you just you said it, Ash, that it's so, I think that one of the most common questions, and I bet you asked this, Amy, was like, okay, well, if I do this, like, how long do you think?
Oh yeah, I've asked that.
Yeah. So, like, how long do you think though? Like, I know that you can't give me an answer really, but like, how long do you think? And it's like, I mean, yeah, it depends on so many factors. And the fact that you have all this, what feels like evidence, that the only way for me to get pregnant is through treatment. Of course, that's going to be mentally difficult for you compared to, hey, I've done this once before, I can do it again. And I think something that, like, for everyone listening who resonates with that, gosh, like, I just promise that your body wants to do this. Like, I just promise that, as non-progressive as this sounds, it's just like all your body wants to do. And even if you are experiencing, unsuccessful months when trying, or miscarriages, it was not for lack of your body's trying. And it's like, it really does so much of the time come down to, we need to give our body the raw materials for it to go and do its job. We cannot say, hey, here's the blueprints, build this house, but here are no materials and no budget. We just can't. But it's so smart. And so much of our work is just like, is not that complicated, right? Like, to your sort of husband's point, what do you mean? So it's going to help you eat food. And like, I kind of wish that it was more complicated, but I mean, I don't, but you know what I mean? But it really is like, we need to give the body the raw materials. I promise you it's trying. I promise you it can do it. We just have to like give it that, go in with some faith. And I don't even want to say blind faith. It's like, because it's, I promise you, like, your body will try. It's not blind faith. It's like genuine faith, genuine trust that it can do this.
I think too, for me, on the note of coaching, like, it was just such a comfort to know that somebody, because for me, I'm the only person I know who is experiencing this. My only like example of any data is my own, and I'm in the middle of it, right? So like, it was such a comfort for me to have somebody who has seen many other cases similar to mine, or not similar, but at least similar in this way, and just somebody confidently tell me like, yes, this is what you need to do. Because I knew in my gut that I needed to do it, and that my behaviors were problematic, and that it wasn't normal that all my family and friends are eating quiche on the day after Thanksgiving brunch, but somebody has to bring fruit and yogurt for Amy because Amy's not going to eat quiche. Like that's not normal. And I knew that, but just to like have somebody, I was just really able to trust. And I think also like I explaining that to my husband too. I was like, but you don't get it. Like, and he's like, so they're not a doctor? And I'm like, not a doctor, but has seen this a lot and knows what she's talking about. He's like, I mean, if you trust her, I trust her, but like, it just, it was just a little bit off the wall, but yeah, like it was just such a comfort to have somebody who works in this and does only this and focuses on this all day guide me through the process.
I'm so curious. What did your husband say after your first ovulatory cycle? After he was like, what do you mean this chick who's not a doctor is going to help you eat toast in the morning?
Yeah. It's been like weird. It's been a weird month. He's been gone so much this month. He's in the military. So like, just like in and out a lot. So it kind of happened like when he wasn't here. And also like some parts of his travel were overseas, so like our communication wasn't great. So he's like getting these random messages from me of like visual, like pictures of my ovulation tests, and is probably like, what am I even looking at? So I think he was just like, probably, I don't even know. He was just like, well, this is good news. So he was just like excited, but
husbands are good like that.
Yeah, I think it's just like, he was probably looking at me like, well, yeah, so you're eating more and everything's working. So like, that's what I told you. So
yeah, they're a little bit like confused. I mean, I don't know if you ever listened to, I did an episode a long time ago with my husband, and he was on the show.
I think I did hear that one.
Yeah, it was a while ago, but if you're an OG, like you might have come across it. And for those people that episode like worked for, it was like, it was really helpful, and some people will have like listened to it a few times and send it to their husband. I think that it's really fascinating, their perspective. I would love to interview Blake, actually, and just like,
you should do it.
Okay, yeah, I might have to do it, because I think that he will hear Dani and I's like Marco Polo, and he's like, look, it starts at the hypothalamus and it hits the
he knows all the info. Yeah,
I kid you not, to the point where I'm like, Blake, do you want a job? That would be funny, because he is actually, I mean, granted, like, this is like 2 to 3 years of having me talk about this over and over and over and over again. So it's like the same chapter of a textbook over and over and over and over. Because you're right, like, this is all we do. This is the only thing we focus on. We focus on restoring like ovulation to fertility. Like, this is it. Like, we're not handling anything else outside of this. And so, but now it's just so amazing that he was obviously compassionate before, but he didn't really understand. He just saw his wife go crazy. Okay. And then now he like completely understands. And yeah, it's wild. I would actually love to hand over the mic to him for 30 minutes.
He's just got such another soothing Georgian voice, like, just, I love it. Well, and yeah, the reason I asked was just because there's a part on the episode where Jake is like, I just didn't get it. I was just like, why don't you just eat more? God, I don't understand. And it's very hard to explain.
I think like one thing with my husband, like we've been together a long time, and I mean, I've had several breakdowns throughout all the fertility stuff, then through this, like several beating myself up, upset about like what my body couldn't do when I was going through fertility treatment, and now upset about the changes in my body, that have happened. And he has been super supportive and been able to say, like, I don't understand how hard this is because it doesn't seem hard to me, but I understand that it's hard for you because I know you and I can like see how hard it is for you to eat a bagel every day. And I'm like sitting here crying, like eating my bagel, you know, but like, and he's like, this isn't hard. Like, you just eat it. It's not hard to eat a bagel, but like for you, I get it that it's hard. And so I think like, I don't know, I've just been blessed with a really supportive partner in the whole thing. And if I didn't have that person, because he's like my day to day, like, how did it go today? You're getting the full like unload at the end of the day. So I think like having that is important. And then like having a coach as well. I've always looked forward to our correspondence because it's like, it's very like uplifting, and I can just put out there however I'm feeling, and I know I'll get a response that's going to help me feel better. So appreciate everything.
I love that.
Oh, so good. Well, we're going to have to have you come back for part 2, but I'm glad that we had you for part 1 about what got you here and getting your first ovulation. Now we're working on
there's a part 2 that I don't know about.
Well, I mean, we are definitely striving for.
Oh, I see. Okay. Cause there's a goal. All right.
There is a goal, but I wanted to make sure that we captured this, you know what I mean? That we captured
You're gonna absolutely hit that goal. For
I
sure.
hope so.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, girl, your first one is 9 days. Luteal.
Yeah, that's really good.
Please just eat the other half of that bagel. We're going to get this.
I know. I just, yeah.
I probably the 3 days will come.
The sufficient progesterone and follicular development lies on the other side of eating the entire meal.
Yeah.
It's so true. Been there. Been there. Okay. I love it. Amy,
all right, beautiful people,
for sharing your story. We so appreciate it.
Yeah.
Ash, thanks for joining and for nominating Amy.
Yes. Thank you, Amy.
Guys, next week. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening today, guys. Please subscribe to the podcast, and if you could head to iTunes specifically and leave a rating or review, that would help so much because it makes it easier for other people with HA who are Googling around to find the podcast really easily. So if you do that, you're doing a service to all of the women.
92% of households that join Peloton early in the year are still active a year later.
Yeah, if you like cycling to EDM.
Not just EDM. Try cycling to Broadway hits, take a scenic hike in Iceland on our treadmill, or roll to some 80s jams.
Because I have so much free time.
Whether you have 30 minutes or just 5, Peloton can fit any schedule. 92% stick with it. So can you. Try Peloton tread, row, or bikes risk-free with a 30-day home trial. New members only. Not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial.
The Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xE. It's electrified.
Boogie, woogie, woogie.
So you can boogie woogie woogie into the forest.
Boogie.
Boogie woogie woogie through the mud. Or boogie woogie woogie to work, where you boogie woogie woogie down the hall to your boss's office to tell him you quit.
Sure got the boogie.
Then you boogie woogie woogie to the elevator as he boogie woogie woogies after you, begging, please, take me with you.
Boogie.
The electrified Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xE. Learn more at Jeep.com. Jeep is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.